Welcome to the Reel to Reel podcast, where the stories behind the board go on record. I'm your host, Bruce Hensal, and I'm joined by Drigo from the Melrose Center at the Orlando Public Library. And our guests today are E-Turn and Swamburger, two stalwarts and pillars of our local hip-hop, rap, and cutting-edge community activist society. So,
thank you for having us.
You bet. You want to give us a little background info on yourself, E?
Sure. Swam, you think it would be better if you start off, since I'm kind of the youngin', or should I start off? I don't know.
Now you go ahead and start off.
So my name is E-Turn. I used to go by Eternity, and that changed probably like about 8 years ago. Hip hop artist, singer, rapper, or I'd prefer to say MC. I do a little bit of voiceover stuff. I'm kind of just an artist all around, and been kind of I do music full time. I've been kind of pushing that over the last 8 to 10 years with my side hustles, but I was kind of like full-fledged touring in 2020 and was supposed to do some Euro tours, and like 2020 was my year and COVID happened. So now I'm just kind of rethinking my life. But yeah, I've been doing music pretty much my whole life. I've been rapping for like over 20 years now. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just ahead. That's it. And this guy Swam is my kind of partner in crime, my producer. He's produced all my albums so far. And he's my mentor. He's like a big brother to me. And he's been in the scene longer than me. So I kind of came up in the scene in Orlando, the hip hop scene, like under his wing. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's hear from the mentor then. Welcome aboard.
Hello. Yeah, I'm a Swamburger. And man, I moved out to Orlando probably about 98. Was out here from 93 until 98, until I moved here. My dad's job got transferred from AT&T on 1 South Wacker in Chicago to AT&T out here. And as soon as that happened, man, I started in the skateboard scene, believe it or not, and kind of came up by way of doing music in the skateboard scene, and then created a fan base. And from that fan base, I just kept going and kept feeding what it is that I had already supplied these cats with. I am also 1/4 of Solillaquists of Sound, which is Da Vinci, Tanya Combs, myself, Swamburger, and Alexandra. We were on Epitaph / Anti Records, for, I want to say from, 2006 to about 2011. Then we were on a smaller label out in France from about 2011 till, probably around the same time, actually. Probably around the same time, give or take a year. But we did some stuff with them. I was actually on a publishing company out here called Eighth Dimension. We were a record label and publishing company. So I was being kind of mentored by Gerard Mitchell, who was at the Social. And my DJ at the time was DJ BMF. And right after that, I had like a short little career with Beef Wellington, where we did the Fantabulous Family. And that's probably around the time where I started traveling out a little bit more within the community and finding more artists, if you will, that would later become artists on my record label called Second Subject Recordings.
Very cool. Now, are you a musician, player, Swam?
I play everything.
Oh, well,
I'm not a master at any of it, but
well,
He's a master at the MPC, which is basically where you can put every sound of every instrument you could ever make and create your own orchestra on one machine, on a sample machine. And like, he's the master of that. So,
well, and it's the art of putting that all together, I think, that I admire the most about what I hear from both of y'all.
Absolutely.
It's definitely art and an exciting time to be doing it, even though the touring's all stopped. Everybody has had to reinvent themselves in a different way. And it's interesting to see what's happening.
I'll piggyback real quick off of the kind of history too, is when he talked, when Swam talked about the skate parks and starting in the skate scene. That's actually how I knew about Swam originally, was through my older brother who's a skater, and knew Swam from seeing him at the skate park, like old school skate parks, Badlands. I grew up in the Altamont area, so Swam would be at Badlands. And so when my brother was like a kid, Swam was, selling him mixtapes and CDs and tapes and all that stuff. And then he's like, you gotta check out Solillaquists of Sound. So I knew who Swam was before he even knew who I was, through Solilla, through my older brother, who was also somewhat in the hip hop scene. And then whenever Swam heard me, he was just like, yo, I got this record label I'm trying to build up. And it was like pretty immediate that he like heard something. And then we started working together in like 2011, I think, or 10.
Yeah. About 2010.
And, history since then. So,
well, I'm going to circle back just for my own curiosity and ask you how you came up with the name Swamburger. It's one of my favorites.
Man, Swamburger came when I was in college. The college years from around 1993 to 98. And then I was already being called Swam, which stands for Survival with the Mind. It was because my cousins couldn't pronounce my real name, which is Asan. So they kept saying San, Swan, and Swam. And Swam was the one that ended up sticking. And I turned it into an acronym, like I said, Survival with the Mind. And then Burger came later when I was in college. And that was from a guy by the name of Miguel Arizola. This is when I became vegetarian, and I would come in from class and he would do different types of things, by the time I got in the door, and I would see him doing things that was just kind of crazy. And one time he was sitting right by the door as soon as I came in, and he was eating this big juicy burger, and he was making the juice from the burger like drip all over him. And I was just like, man, what are you doing? And he was like, I'm eating a Swamburger. And we both just started laughing. And
you're like, yo.
right. So then he dared me to actually try to make it in the industry with a name like Swamburger. And this is during the time when like Wu-Tang Clan had just came out and everybody was getting real serious about their names, calling themselves like Level Aquanaut and things like this. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, yo, it'd be great, if you were like the change, if you will, like kind of like the medicine in the Twinkie, right? so Swamburger it was, man. And then later, when I was on tour with Sage Francis, we were at the Henry Fonda Theater. It was a sold out show. And he had actually came to the show. Miguel Arizola came to the show. And he showed up by way of saying something. He said something in the crowd. And I recognized, he said Robotic Industry, which was one of the first songs me and him had recorded in college. And I was like, Mizo? Because that was his nickname. And he totally showed himself in the crowd. And later, after we rocked the crowd, like I showed him the vinyl that I had that said Swamburger on like the left or right hand side. And I was like, I did it. You know what I'm saying? I basically, did what you dared me to do. And now everybody's, acting real nonchalant when they say my name. Like, like it's not a crazy name, Yeah, well, man.
Yeah.
And what I think is so cool is that name exists on so many levels, just like the music does. That's really impressive to be. And it seems to me, not knowing either one of you personally, that it's kind of an organic thing with you and the community type thing. You guys are so smart that those levels just kind of like get peeled back and peeled back. It's just amazing to see. And speaking of levels,
thank you.
Let's take a listen to Makeshift. And this is a collaboration with E and Swam.
I want to talk my heart out. I want to talk because it's important to talk about how does it feel as a female, as a human, as a being. Everything that is happening is affecting all of us. We're one organism. All of us interrelated. We are living the same fate on this planet. Don't be afraid of feeling the pain.
So sore, swipe right to the wayside. So used to the fake vibes, never get a chance to connect to the main line. Stay tied to the surface, make great but it's worthless. Undermine what your curses, some emotional scenes. Cut shows over with the curtains. Get chat with your purchase, give back with the purchase. Quick jabs with the purpose, let it speak in a week forever. Foraging for fervency. Couldn't fathom a new earth could be. Holding on to the old tricks, never learn new. Can't take it, snap, murder, flee. Run away from the mess we inherited. Misinterpret how to live and they scare us in. Wait from the roots, try to go and grow somewhere else, still ashamed of your heritage. Shift innocence, blame love, denying the burden we bear within. Risk our lives every day on the way to slay in hopes of a fair spin. We feeding the machine, greed, fear. Hoarding the fiends, bleed, spear. Ripping the scene seems fair. Not what it seemed, we there. Sporting distorted rewards, chasing more than we need. Distorted distortion and gluttonous portions are itching and pushing to feed. They cringe at the culture, binge on it like vultures. The slaves and the soldier. The climate is colder, we're finally folding. What stance are you holding? What truth are you molding? Tune into reality. Let it paint the picture that was sad to see. Bitter wrath of the repercussions, giving into exactly what we're battling. Yeah. No space for the, no time for the. So fake we can hate, so far we can hate. No space for the, no time for the. So fake who can hate? Too tired of the matrix. Too tired of the matrix. Too tired of the take it. Too tired of the matrix. No space for the, no time for the. So fake we can hate, so far we can hate. No space for the, no time for the fake shit. No time for the fake shit. So snake who can, too tired of the hatred. Too tired of the hatred. Too tired of the hatred. Undivided, redivided, we divide. Yeah, we're providing an alliance to the right. But when inside we know we should rise. See defiance and defiance. No more silence, silence down to a science. And round we go. When it ties to our past lives. Slacking our movements, stacking our 2 cents. No push, wait for a handout, get stuck, wonder why. Why? Eyes feed lies, stabbing at our hearts like 1,000 knives. Overstepping never act, just a glance into our true mind lapse in time. Left brain, right brain, dialogue, argumentative, cognitive dissonance, crash is imminent. Where's the medicine I've been looking for? No more, ready no more pacing. Piece of top floor, leave the small talk at the door. War, conquest, famine and death. What's left in this frame? Inflamed from cutting corners, trapping tricks in the brain. Maintaining illusions about who's inflicting the pain. Undermining delusion, move on with sickness ingrained. Ancestral oppression coursing through our veins. There's more to us than status. Remain conditioned and tame. Lay belts on everything, tag in what depth's in a name. Intention is queen, the strongest piece in a game. No space for the, no time for the. So fake we can hate, so far we can hate. No space for the, no time for the. So fake who can hate? Too tired of the hate, too tired of the matrix. Too tired of the matrix, too tired of the take it. Too tired of the matrix. No space for the, no time for the. So fake we can hate, so far we can hate. No space for the, no time for the fake. No time for the fake shit. So snake who can, too tired of the hatred. Too tired of the hatred. Too tired of the hatred.
that was Makeshift by E-Turn, produced by our other guest this month, Swamburger. Well, I'd like to hear a little bit about maybe the making and the collaboration on that particular track, because to me, it's got some beautiful, beautiful production, but it's also got a really deep, heartfelt message.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, E. Take that. You got it.
Yeah, so I remember very clearly when we were working on that track, I was going through a lot. Definitely going through some depression and anxiety, which I've struggled with for a lot of my life, and a lot through the process of Swam and I making music, as I'm sure he can agree with. And so, dealing with depression it drains my energy a lot. And so sometimes I'll hit a wall when I'm trying to be creative and I'm just like, I can't. And I feel the pressure, especially the pressure grows when you're trying to make it a career, and a way to put food on the table. The pressure kind of grows. And also a couple years ago, I got signed with the indie label called Fake 4, run by Chesky and in New Haven, Connecticut. And so this particular album, Young World, was the first release with them. And so there was even more pressure to like hurry up and get it done on time and for it to be great. And so Makeshift, I want to say, was like one of the first tracks we worked on for Young World.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and like one of the first ones we recorded and everything, and the beat was just like so fire. And I sometimes I feel overwhelmed with Swam's beats because they're so musical and they're so intricate and they're so detailed. And he does that on purpose, not only because like he wants to be different and be like, all right, well, look, I got this, not just this like looped, hip hop beat. It's the same thing over and over again. But also I think he wants to push the artists that he works with to be more creative and to find different pockets and stuff. And so I was kind of overwhelmed by the beat. And I started with little points here and there. And I like wrote a verse and I showed to him and I was like, I hate this. Like I literally didn't like the song at first. And Swan was like, this is like my favorite ish that you've ever made. I'm like, I hate it. And he's like, it's so good. And I honestly, even up until recording the song, I was just like, I just hated it. And I think it was because I was going through a lot of pain at the time. And so those feelings were kind of associated with it. And now that I'm out of that, I can kind of look back at the track and be like, wow, okay, that's pretty dope, actually. And I'm not triggered by it as much.
Yeah.
And it became the first single we released off of the album, and it's become a lot of people's favorites. Like I think a lot of people have told me that's their favorite track on the album. So yeah, fueled by a lot of crazy stuff that I was going through and pain and frustration, and just like at one point was like, ugh, to that track. And now it's like one of my favorite tracks as well. And
my question is, did Swam hand you a finished production or just a beat and you fit the rap to that, and the embellishments were put on later?
It varies. I want to say with that one, we had at least like a session or two before it was complete. The production was completely finished. We usually will meet up a little bit while he's starting the foundation of a beat, and then we'll just vibe with each other a little bit. And then, but sometimes he'll give me a finished beat. He's like, I got this, da-da-da. And then maybe he'll add something later. But Swam, right?
For this one in particular, like this one was pretty much done. The only thing that wasn't done was some of the transitional stuff. Okay. When you hear her like change up a flow or something like that. So like that transitional stuff was added in later after she had did her raps, because it gave me more insight as to where the song should kind of be going. But like the hooks were done, the verses were pretty much done, and the intent of the whole thing was done, because as she talked about, with this depression and anxiety and stuff, those things were definitely heartfelt on my end as well. So like, it's not like I walked away from the session like, okay, I'm cool. Like it was, I went through it too, you know what I'm saying? Not to say that I was depressed, but it was like, I was trying to find something to aid my friend, you know what I'm saying? So that we could move from one step to the next. Because, I see her as a great, and, it would be devastating, like if her greatness was to be stopped by something like depression. You know what I'm saying? Like where you feel like you kind of always will, at least from my side, I kind of always feel like I can do something more, and I'm glad that this came through, because I kept saying to her, I was like, yo, this is my favorite track,
And I was like, I don't like it.
She hated it.
So in the writing process, do you guys usually start with the beat, or is there a case where, for example, you'll come up with like the vocal ideas first and then kind of incorporate a beat? How does that usually work for you guys?
It's pretty rare that I'll just come up with something, because I think that on the production side for Swam, he's got to kind of start from scratch in his space, with things like, right. I don't really think that we've done a lot where I've given you something. I feel like he needs to kind of just start on his own, or if I give him something, it can give him maybe an idea or something, but it might not end up like, I'm not like, hey, I need this tempo and this blah, 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 and this blah, 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 and these instruments, blah, blah. I might tell him, hey, like, can we, do a track with some piano, or for instance, the makeshift thing, he specifically did that to incorporate, as I told him with this album, I want to incorporate a lot more Iranian, Persian instruments, because that's part of my background. And so there's these Persian instruments that are incorporated. So I'll give him ideas, but for the most part, he will start the beat on his own. That's just how he works with beats. He has to kind of come up with it himself.
And there's also...
So it's usually beat first and then you'll go through it.
Yeah. There's also, like, within that process, a lot of our process starts outside of the studio, because a lot of where I get my inspiration from is kind of our connection as friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, if there's something that she's going through, like, I'll try to go through it before I end up making the beat, and then it's kind of like my offering, if you will, like to her,
Very cool.
Now, Swam, I took kind of a deep dive into Sunshine's State of Mind, and
yes, sir.
So underrated.
Yeah. And I know it's been a minute since that came out. A couple things really nailed me. I sent you an email and I mentioned it. Woe Is Not Me.
Yes.
That song nailed me. It started out in church, then the metal guitars came in. But while you were in church, I thought I heard CeeLo Green singing.
Yeah.
And
man.
I was just curious.
He was actually...
Go ahead.
Yeah, CeeLo was actually one of the first celebrities, if you will, like to step to our crew, as well as myself, to want to sign us. Just prior to him doing the I Think You're Crazy, you know what I'm saying, song.
The Norris
like he was trying to sign us and start his own record label. Wow. But then that song hit, and he called me right before he was about to go on the Tonight Show, man. And he was like, I haven't forgot about you. And I told him, I said, hey, man, this is what you wanted. Do this and don't look back. So there it was. Next thing you know, he was chilling with cats, you know what I'm saying, on The Voice.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Well,
Goody Mob.
That and the other song that I really fell for was Cooties, which was an epic movie in itself.
Yes.
That was a great story, well told. And just, I'm curious, did you do all that in a particular studio? I mean, sound-wise, it's great sounding project.
I record really fast, so a lot of it wherever I'm at. And at the time, I was in my home. It was a home studio.
Okay.
Because we do have, as a crew, as Solillaquists of Sound, as well as Second Subject, like we have like multiple different places that we can go to record. Some are home studios, others are, actually, studios that we've built from the ground up or built inside of the actual home. And this one in particular, at this time, I was actually in my home studio. just went for it, man. And I think I recorded that whole album in like a week and a half, man.
Wow.
He's a beast. He's crazy.
I-
I'm so jealous.
I got to second that. He's definitely a beast. Drigo, you got any questions here?
Yeah. So, in terms of, for example, the whole label thing and everything, what could you tell maybe like the viewers a little bit about your experience with, being on a label and all that kind of stuff? Because I know for people that's kind of like their big break. They kind of always are looking for that. They're like, oh, once I get on a label. So what are some things you can maybe tell people that are watching right now on your experience and just being on a label, the whole process of getting into the label, and everything?
Oh man, I think you should go on this one.
It's still a new experience for me. My first kind of technical being signed to a label, besides Second Subject, because that was kind of us all building together, him still building a local thing, but me kind of officially signing with a label that had been around for a while, even though still an independent label, was just, it's still pretty new. It's 2018. And again, this is an independent label still, so it's still kind of a smaller thing. A lot of people have never even heard of Fake Four. But for me, what this has done for me is allowed me to kind of be a part of their community, and Fake Four is definitely more of a community than anything else. I would say it's given me a little taste of like being signed, but I don't think it's anywhere near the same as being signed to a major label, and I've never been signed to a major label. And I honestly, at this point, don't think, that's not, I used to want that, and I don't want that anymore. And I think if you don't have knowledge of the industry, a lot of people who are up and coming artists are like, I just got to get signed. Like you said, I just got to get signed, but they don't realize that there are levels where you don't have to be signed to especially nowadays, where you don't need to be signed to a major label to make music a career. I have people that are friends that are doing it themselves who are making six figures, and that's, you're not a millionaire, but you don't have to, sell your soul to the devil and do what they want you to do, and you own all of your stuff. You know what I mean? So there is a middle ground and there are levels. So with this indie label, I've been able to see a little bit more freedom than I think I would see with a major label. And again, not necessarily my goal anymore to get signed by a major label. I wouldn't look away. I would definitely look at a deal if I was to, because they got money. But I really want to build my own stuff, and I'm aspiring to be involved with people who are still doing their thing and successful, but are independent and want to see me succeed being myself and not being molded into something they want me to be. So,
well, I think that's
that's
an admirable goal, and to maintain control of everything. I mean, the record industry isn't what it was when I was coming up. When we would spend 9.5 months making Hotel California and sending out for lobster every night. And I'm glad that doesn't exist anymore, because it wound up creating an artificial perspective. And most of those people wound up signing away their publishing. Without the right management, they could never do it. So I think what's happened to the major labels is they've just become banks in essence, and banks never give you a good deal if they can help it.
Right, they're just trying to make money. Yeah, definitely.
That's an awesome analogy.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously the other difference is, record sales aren't really the industry's so different because record sales aren't really a thing anymore. Everybody's streaming, and artists don't really get paid for streaming. So you have to reevaluate the whole business as an artist now. It's so different.
It's almost like all the music is free now, and then you have to monetize everything outside of that. So kind of like your pull is the music, that's their free thing, that's your in, and then pretty much everything else around it is what you can monetize on top of, like, you know, touring and stuff.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, and why touring is so important nowadays in the industry is because that's where you sell merch. Like, nobody's buying records at the store. People are buying things to support you at your shows. And or if you have like a shirt that they're like, oh, that's so amazing, or vinyl is like kind of a novelty thing, you know, that's where you make a huge chunk, if not even more, for people like me who are still kind of low as an independent artist. Like, guarantees all over the country or all over the world aren't that big for me. So my money is in merch. And when I can't tour, it's harder for me to make money.
Now, have you seen a big spike because everybody being at home, staying at home, and kind of seeing more and listening more to more music nowadays? Did you see like a spike in some of like your music or anything in your world and your side from people just staying at home? Because I know sometimes some artists, they kind of went into hiding and they said, you know what, we're going to work on this and then create the product, while others were kind of doing like you, where, you know, they were streaming, they were putting themselves out there. So have you seen a difference between you know, before the pandemic and during the pandemic, where people were more indoors?
I think I could say I've seen a little spike, nothing too crazy, but I'm in the process with my manager working on trying to build some kind of campaigns and ads and trying to get more eyes and ears on my music. I wouldn't say, again, it's anything crazy notable, and I haven't really dropped any new music because the problem, what happened is I'm a full-time artist. A lot of other people, they have either a full-time job or something else they're doing to make money. And I'm just like, okay, now I have to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills while I'm not touring. So I'm over here hustling, like doing features for people, like doing voiceover, doing this, that, and the third, dog sitting, random things just to pay my bills that I haven't really had the time and energy to work on my own music. So now I'm like, all right, Eliza, this is the perfect time for you to work on your music. So I'm like trying to get into I try to build kind of a cushion. And I think I'm getting to that place where I can build a little bit of a cushion. And that's what independent artists have to do for the most part. Even when touring is happening, you have to build a cushion while you're on tour. And then you come home and you have money that you can pay your rent for however many months before you're going to tour again. So you can work on your music and work on your craft. So now I'm like kind of at the place where I've been able to build a little bit of a cushion and I'm starting to work on my own music. But it's very hard to turn down when someone comes and says, hey, can you do a voiceover? Hey, can you do a feature? Hey, can you? Because that's money and I got bills I got to pay, and I'm making money off of my art, but I'm also not working on building my own brand with that. Like, I need to be able to set aside time to work on music. So to go back to your question, I haven't necessarily seen a huge spike. But I've become a little more consistent with putting out like content on social media, and I am in the midst of building more of that, and doing ads. Ads are important. And once you kind of learn the game with ads, I think it can do a lot for you. And that's what I'm working on right now. But hopefully I'll have a new record soon. I'm working on it. It's happening. I don't know how deep I am into it yet, but it's going to happen soon.
Very cool.
Well, Swam, I know also you're a graphic artist.
Oh, yeah.
So that sort of runs outside of the music industry. Have you been keeping busy with that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For me, they go hand in hand. Like, it's kind of like how we brought up before, where, you know, during this COVID moment, I should say that I've seen a spike in interest in artists like myself. You know what I'm saying? Mainly because you have all of your other talents that go behind the music, you know what I'm saying, to help advertise the music. And now these things can kind of come towards the forefront, if you will. For a lot of artists like me, the cats like Blueprint from Rhyme Sayers will say something like, he's got a song called Two-Headed Monster, where he talks about MCs that also produce. You know, I call myself a three-headed monster, where it's like MCs that produce and also can draw, you know. So these are things right now where, like, the Renaissance man, if you will, Renaissance men and women can actually step more, to the forefront and say, hey, we have other things that you guys may have missed, when digging into parts of our worlds, and so that has definitely heightened. I've been doing more murals. I've been doing more client work, with art, and a lot of these people have seemed to get the fact that I do art from like art covers that I've done, the album covers that I've done for our own albums. But they're just now kind of getting back to it since everything's kind of came to a halt. And when that money came in, when the stimulus packages came in, man, everybody was buying art, man. So I definitely I applauded that. That was amazing. No more going to Walmart getting cheap, cheap paintings of apples and oranges. They came right to me. That was awesome.
Very cool. Well, do you have any current projects, either music or on the art side, coming up? Or
oh yeah, lot of current projects. I've built over at least 200 songs during this COVID thing, like with a few different types of producers. One of the producers' names is MF Shalem. He used to be a producer and DJ for Sage Francis, who was our catalyst for Solillaquists of Sound getting on to Epitaph/Anti Records. The other producer I'm working with is a guy by the name of Frank from All Good Funk Alliance. And one of the other labels, it's a Miami label that I'm working with now. His name is Juan Mejia. He was like one of the first guys in Florida to kind of put me on. This was back in, I want to say 94 or something like this, right? And we just recently started working together again. And he wanted me to create an album for his record label. So I've been working on that. And man, as of now, these 200 songs or so are going to different types of projects. But we're just trying to place them all right now. A lot of licensing going on, obviously. And a lot of things that we're handing in the hands of bigger record execs and organizations like studio networks, I should say, people that basically handle anything from licensing of songs to commercials, TV shows, and movies. So that's everything. And as far as the art is concerned, just mainly been working on there's like this kids project that they're trying to do in one of the communities out here, Paramore actually. But we'll see how that goes because there's a lot of red tape with that right now. But a lot of art is bigging up right now. There are so many spikes in the art world in general, simply because of people being trapped inside their homes and trapped inside, these little bubbles, if you will. So people are trying to create a lot more so that either when they come out or if we're going to be, if we're going to kind of succumb to what this is right now, like we want to make do in such a way where we become a little bit more creative of a being to kind of sustain ourselves,
Yeah, I know it's hard to see what the new paradigm is going to be because it only took a year for us to all get into Zoom world. And
right.
A year
exactly.
ago, who knew?
Exactly.
So what about you in current projects? What's going on with you?
I recently dropped the first official, I was doing this thing on Instagram a couple years ago called Sunday 16. And it's essentially just different independent producers, beats that I would drop 16 bars over, spit a verse, and obviously come out on a Sunday. And I was just doing it from my phone randomly and then kind of fell off. And now I was like, hey, I want to try to, since my manager's talking about let's run some ads and try to get more content going, I'm like, I kind of want to relaunch this Sunday 16 thing. And I just relaunched it on my Instagram at E-Turn Music, if you want to follow, ETURN Music. And just dropping 16 bars every Sunday on a different producer's beat and kind of give some of my favorite producers shine, as well as just give people some bars to listen to and a quick video. You know, nowadays it's like you can't put out long videos. You just got to give them a little taste because they keep scrolling. And so Sunday 16, new little series I'm doing. And then what else? I'm considering launching a Patreon in the near future. It's kind of a new thing that I wasn't interested in doing before, because I feel like once it started popping off, like people felt bombarded with that, with Patreon, with subscriptions and crowdfunding. I feel like the scene is kind of bombarded with it. And but at this point, I'm willing to kind of give it a chance and try to come up with something creative and different that I can offer that does create value for people, and enough value that they would be down to support monthly at like a low cost. Some of the artists are staying afloat by doing Patreon. Are you familiar with Patreon?
Yeah,
Okay.
Well aware of that. I know a few people that have done great with it, and other people that aren't happy with it for some reason, and I haven't been able to get an answer to why they aren't. So
I would definitely say there's kind of an art to it, to crowdfunding and to subscription-based things, and you really got to study like how can you make it successful. And thankfully, I have my manager in my corner doing some research and trying to help me with that. I'm thinking about kind of basing the main perk being around mental health and kind of interviewing high caliber artists who struggle with it and just get their take on it. That's one of my ideas, as well as giving people kind of exclusive access to sitting in with me and making music. Just trying to come up with, things that are worth it, because I'm not the type of person that, hey, like if you want to throw money at me, fine. But at the same time, like I want to create value if you're going to be paying something every month. So anyway, look out for that. I'm sure I'll post it a bunch on my Instagram, E-Turn Music, and my site is eturnmusic.info. Other than that, I'm just trying to make music. I'm trying to work on this new record. I've got some songs in the works. I haven't released any information about the new record yet, but that's pretty much what I'm working on. And hopefully you will hear some of my music and Swams in some like shows on Netflix and movies and stuff in the near future. That's kind of the hope here.
Oh, that's a definite.
That's a definite. Thank you.
You mentioned your manager. Is that a local manager?
Yes, actually. Give him some shameless plug real quick.
Oh yeah, I'm all about plugging Orlando and the local peeps,
Chris G,
sure.
Chris Goizueta, aka Chris G. He's got a podcast that's been going. He's been pretty consistent for the last few years called Making It with Chris G. Making It with Chris G on all the platforms, and he's interviewed some pretty big people in the industry. So I would definitely check it out. And he worked for what's that?
AEG?
AEG Live. He worked for
the live conference. Yeah.
Yep, he did. He's done promoting, he's done artist management. He's been in the industry for, I want to say, close to 20 years, or, at least over 15 years. And he's got a lot of knowledge on the industry. And so we're working together, and he's booked me for shows in the past, and we've known each other, not, super closely, but known each other in the scene for a long time. And now we're working as a manager and artist couple, which is a very close, as Swam used to manage me, and it's a very close relationship. So we're working on a lot of cool things.
Wow. Yeah, Swam, I got to give you kudos for taking on the management position. I've been in the industry 45 years, and I will never manage an artist. I'll work for them, but that 24/7 babysitter thing,
Yeah, man.
I already got
Yeah,
2 cats.
it's a thing. It's a thing.
He was basically wearing all the hats. So it wasn't like he came in and said, I'm going to be your full-time manager. He was like, I'm going to, help to manage you, because I was on his label and he was wearing a lot of hats for multiple artists. So props to him for wearing all those hats. And even as the artist myself, even when I have a manager, I still have to wear multiple hats as a businesswoman and an entrepreneur. So we're all just wearing a bunch of different hats.
Well, I'm about out of questions here. I'm really enjoyed this. You guys got any questions for me?
I do, actually.
All right.
What is your take on? All right, so basically, what I'm doing is I've had this fascination with racism, and I should say, I don't want to say the ending of racism, but I've had this fascination with racism as a social movement, seeing how this type of social movement can last so long and influence so many decisions and choices and things like this, that I've been working on my own kind of sense of social reform by way of creating social change through other terms, or I should say basically been trying to create my own sense of like pathways through greatness, like, as well as like fun activities. Nothing that's too political, nothing that's too involved, right? What is your take on creating anew for people who feel like they are just not a part of anything, or will ever be, in the way that I guess they feel, some folks are?
I would say that the only path I see to a resolution in that is to be true to yourself. If you've got strong principles and values that you believe in, and you're not going to blow with every breeze that comes along, then you stick to those. It's funny, you start the conversation off with talking about racism, because I was the only white kid in school until the 4th grade. And then the second white kid in my school was my blonde sister, who was in 1st grade. So I grew up in the ghetto in Akron, Ohio, till I was in 4th grade and moved out into the country. So the color thing that oppressed a lot of people in the suburbs never existed for me, because my best friends were all black, and all the people I knew at that formative age were black. So and it didn't exist in my family. It was, the next door neighbor was my closest friend. He took me to see my first concert, which was James Brown, Ray Charles, and Screaming Jay Hawkins.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That was my introduction to music.
I'm jealous.
Right. all them names. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and when I saw Screaming Jay get out of a coffin, I said, I'm in. Just, they carried him out of the coffin. Right. Man jumped up and I put a spell on you.
Spell on you, right?
And that's it. So music and rock and roll had grabbed me, but I didn't become aware of the color barrier until I got to college. I went to school at Kent State. I was a witness at the murders. But what people don't realize is that most of the problems that happened that weekend were because of a protest by BUS, the Black United Students at Kent State.
Yeah.
But those guys were so much more aware of what the government could do than we were as white young radicals, that they stayed away from the killing ground. I mean, they really were not on campus that day. So to consciously find a way around racism, I don't know. I don't know if there's an answer to that, but for me, it's something that never really entered my conscience or my dialogue just because of my upbringing. I don't know if that answers your question or not. But
No, I mean, it does. It does. I mean, there's because with some of these social standards, you know, you have something that's being introduced and then everybody follows, right? So to reintroduce a process is almost like to reintroduce a reflex. Like if you were to crash in the car and instead of going like this, you know what I'm saying, you did something else, you know, like so. But to teach that, you know, without telling someone that you're teaching them differently, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm more interested in.
all right, well, that sounds like retraining, and they did a good job. We all own masks today, so
yeah, man. I think it's part of it. I think it's part of it, and it's like I won't say conspiracy or anything like this, but there's a process happening. You know what I'm saying? And I'm very intrigued by it. And these are the things that you'll definitely hear this type of stuff in the new music. But these are the things I'm very, very intrigued by. And I'm like, I want to get ahead of it.
Well, good. I look forward to hearing the new music, and I look forward to hearing the new message.
So good.
Yeah, man.
So good.
Well, any more questions from Drigo?
No, other than just if you guys want to go ahead and link, or not link, but just kind of give the viewers where to find you guys. I know E-Turn, you've already kind of stated some of those, but if you guys are on like TikTok or Instagram or your own personal pages, if you guys would want to link them, I think that would be really cool, especially if, like E-Turn, if somebody wants to reach out for you for like a feature or something, that would be really cool.
Yeah, I just launched a new website, so you can go straight there and the contact in there, and it'll go to my manager. If you're looking for a feature, eturnmusic.info, eturnmusic.info. My store is up there if you want to support local artists. This is a shirt I dropped recently. Its name is kind of a like Persian warrior ninja queen. So it's body positive. The character is specifically not super skinny. And then Swam actually did the name E-Turn here at the bottom, but the character is from Origin, another local artist. Got it printed with a small business. You can find that on my website, and I have some other stuff on there: vinyl, CDs, other shirt designs, blah blah blah. eturnmusic.info, and then my Instagram is where I'm also most active as far as social media goes, at eturnmusic, ETURN yeah, pretty much it.
And you can find me at secondsubject.com, as well as Facebook, as well as on the street.
On the street, always. That's probably where you're more likely to see him.
You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Where can we see one of your murals?
Oh man, at Sam Flex.
All right.
You can see one of them. And there's also another. There's a shop. My girl Misty. She owns a shop called Florida Soap Company. You can visit that, and it's got a mural that I did for her personally. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, man.
Well, this has been fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Likewise.
I'm so glad that you guys were able to join us here. And
absolutely.
We'd like to thank our audience for joining the Reel to Reel podcast from the Melrose Center. I'm your host, Bruce Hensal. I'd like to thank my guests, Swamburger and E-Turn.
Thank you.
And my co-host, Drigo.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
And,
Shouts to Jim.
And a shout out to Jim Myers. I hope you can join us next month for the Reel to Reel podcast. We're going to be featuring a sort of a reunion show of season 1 and some surprise guests. There's so much more in store for you in future episodes. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcasting app. Join us next month for another episode with an exclusive look at life behind the board. Thanks to Carol Hensel for our theme music.